Good morning, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to join us today for a presentation on tech tools and solutions for lawyers as they move their practices home during this unprecedented public health crisis. We have with us today Adam Spence, who is a trial attorney and longtime litigator, 25 years experience as a practitioner, and also many years of experience teaching tech issues and tech solutions, particularly to the legal community, but also he has many other community connections where he shares his knowledge and technology and his expertise on that front. So we're very happy to have him with us today, and he has put together a very useful presentation for you. He's going to make himself available for questions if you have any specific interest in some of the tools and resources that he shares with you this morning. Just some housekeeping. You'll see on your screen, Adam will be controlling the screen with his PowerPoint presentation, and I'm continuing to admit folks here. So we're up to about 36 participants. So thank you and welcome to those of you who have just joined. You'll see a chat icon on your screen that looks like a word bubble. And you can go ahead and type your comments in there and Adam will see them. We will be monitoring them as well. My name is Andrea Terry. I'm the Director of Learning for the MSBA. We have Angela Monroe and Doris Barnes and Nathan Levin as staff on the call as well to help monitor chat and questions that you might have. So the MSBA thanks Adam and for this presentation. We hope that it is helpful to you. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Adam Spence. So I'll keep admitting folks, Adam. We're up to 40. So if you want to take it away with your presentation, please do so.
Sure. Hey, welcome everybody. Good morning. Certainly trying times that we're all having. This is just one of the many ways that we're trying to help through your state bar to allow your practice to get back to normal as much as possible in the time of COVID. This program has a lot of information for both novices. I've been teaching tech programs since 2006 to bar associations, including State Bar. It's going to be for both novices, people who really barely can use a cell phone and ask their grandkids for help, to those like me who are a little bit more advanced. You're going to get some tips that'll help you. So the idea is I'm going to throw a lot of information out. It's feeding through a fire hose. As a trial lawyer, doing a lot of trust and estate litigation and business litigation. I'm used to talking fast because my clients pay by the hour. So if I go too fast for you, you can follow up with questions towards the end. We'll be answering those. But in addition to that, you'll have the materials online. The Bar Association will post these materials, which you can certainly share with those in your practice or your friends or colleagues to kind of review those. And I'm always available. You can see at the bottom of this page here, you can see my contact information, at least by email, and I'm happy to answer more in-depth or even simple tech questions. It's part of my commitment to making the bar better. There was an individual with Bordy Vineyards who called it cluster, as in grape cluster, and he shared a lot of his knowledge with other growers in Maryland because he felt that if we make the industry better, then everybody benefits across Maryland. And I truly feel that way about the Bar Association, that we share our best practices so that each of you can do better in your practices and make all of us better in turn. So this is the kind of the philosophy behind this program today, and to help you. We are looking at, with the bar, developing a presentation series. This is the first of them. This program will probably be repeated. Potentially, it will certainly be recorded, but we may be going into more depth about things we need to worry about when we're working remotely, marketing techniques in a time of remote practice, and some other areas, including wellness, which we'll discuss in a little bit. but those will be a continuing, hopefully, seminar over the next few weeks to help everybody out there develop their practices and maintain them during this trying time. So let's go ahead and just mention some of those resources that we start with. This is my website right here, is really where you can get some of the materials. The links are here. The Bar Association will also have the same links. The material on this, the presentation, is slightly different than what you're going to get today, but it's the same substantive information. And you'll see this is more of a Maryland State Bar focused presentation today. So we just want to start. I mean, now more than ever, the bar's here to help. I mean, this is what we're for. And there's been a lot of people behind the scenes. There's been a lot of people behind the scenes working on getting this together, in addition to myself, and making sure that these questions that have been flying through the listserv are getting answered. And so, rely on us. There's some people here. Doris Barnes is one in particular, Angela Monroe. These people can help you with your practice, and you should reach out to them in the solo group to get help if you're struggling. So let's talk about some of the resources that they have. Right now, they have a dedicated COVID-19 lawyer page. It's going to give those learning opportunities we talked about, also business resources and court updates, which is very important as we change daily. As significant, and we do want to focus on that, is your health and wellness portal. A lot of you out there are probably depressed, in a funk, maybe, certainly scared like the rest of us. And if you already stressed out, this may have, the situation may have made it worse, particularly if you're feeling isolated. This health and wellness portal, we encourage you to go to. Your membership does pay for that. And I want to show something. This is a weekly guided lawyer support group. And by the way, when you get the presentation, all of these links will be live. So all you have to do is click on them and you'll get to that information right away. So you don't have to go searching for the links. This support group is chaired by a clinical social worker that is with the bar that is the director of the Lawyers Assistant Program. And it is a weekly support group, Wednesdays every week. You can call in, or you can get the video by Meet at Google. So again, if you're feeling more private, call in. You don't have to talk or let people know who you are. With video, you can turn off your video, but your name may be on there. It just depends. I think it's just a support group for the challenging times that we all face, and strictly confidential within the group. I think there's some guidelines that they expect you to follow at the beginning of the group. They'll explain that. So I'm just going to keep going and assuming that you can see the slides. I'll put this information up that we were talking about. Lawyers Assistance Program. Here are the website links for the State Bar that we just talked about, and these are the resources that we have available to you. So if you haven't renewed, renew today. So let's talk about some other resource links. Again, these are both on my website, the bar's website, and you can certainly search, but these will be available by link. The CDC and the WHO are probably the most reliable sources for information right now. Interestingly, the Department of Labor and OSHA are also providing some guidance that might prove useful to some firms. And then obviously the judiciary and the state government, Governor Hogan's been really ahead of this and provided excellent information. So, but beyond resources, everybody out there needs to act. There's a lot of sort of fear, and as a trial lawyer, we always worry for our clients. But the clients are the ones that are really stressed out and facing massive problems in their life. And our job as attorneys is to give those clients some reassurance. And the best reassurance we can give our clients, and I found this time and time again, is to plan and to say, here's your problem and here's what we're going to do to fix it. So we take that same skill set that we learn as attorneys dealing with our clients, and we do it for our own businesses. So what we recommend you do is prepare a response plan. It could be on just a plain handwritten piece of paper, but it gives some concreteness and clarity to how you're going to personally respond. And part of this program is to teach you how to do that, at least from preparing a technology plan. You definitely need to let your employees know if you have employees, because they're sometimes nervous, and to give them as much information today about what you're doing today based on today's information. And then potentially planning for tomorrow if the finances change or whatever. You need to be prepared for this. But what we're really going to focus on today is the technology plan for home. By the way, the resource plan that we've got right here, that we've got sample resource plans that we've put together for my firm. They're a bit old now that they're, I think, maybe 7 or 8 days old. We have elected since then to actually start to work from home, even though we are, as attorneys, considered non-essential. Essential workers, and we can actually work at our offices. Not recommended. So let's talk about the 3 pillars of your tech plan, working from home. First, you need to worry about your computer hardware. You need to worry about your software. The software, when we refer to software, it's going to include things like Word and Microsoft, Excel or Google Documents, to the software we use to access the internet, such as the video conferencing you're seeing today. That's the software we're referring to. And then we're looking at the remote access. This is a little bit different. Obviously, you're remote accessing some information today, but this is more directed at you being able to get to your computer at your office and get to your files and get to your potentially to your clients. So let's talk about the hardware requirements. We don't spend a lot of time on those, just because I think it's kind of a duh. You need a laptop and a desktop. Don't forget your charger if you're moving your office back and forth, because if you don't have a charger, you're in trouble. The docking station is fairly significant because there's only so many plugs on your laptop. A docking station for the Surface Pro that I have was about $200, but it allows me to one plug, and it looks like I've got about 8 things coming out of it, including 3 monitors. So that's really the purpose of a docking station, is to give you, a keyboard and a mouse and everything else. So it just gives you the ability to unplug and move quickly to the kitchen. The other thing I want to mention is the extra monitors. I've always been a fan of, somebody has some feedback going on. If they could just mute that. So the other thing you want to worry about is a webcam. Work from home, and what we want to look at is having a webcam that's high quality, and that can actually, you can adjust and does the settings. The thing that I would recommend that you do, there's a $24 Logitech high definition camera that I've purchased. You may not be able to get it today because things are pretty much out of stock if you go to anywhere around. Monitors are out of stock, computers are out of stock, webcams are out of stock, but hopefully in the next couple of weeks, they'll start coming back in stock. And I think webcams, I want to talk about this a little bit. We talk about sort of the paradigm shift. I mean, we're seeing a new age of law practice here. And I think that it's not going to go back even when it goes back. I think we're going to see more people working from home. I think that more people will be video conferencing as opposed to talking on the phone. And what I'm sort of use this program for is to encourage you to use this opportunity when you maybe have a little extra time at home, away from clients, to really test some of this stuff, get comfortable with things like webcams and communicating with your clients through video conferencing, because I suspect it's here to stay. I've talked to other people who are working at home, and they say, yeah, in our business, finance or accounting, they were using some of this video conferencing technology for years, and as was my firm, although not as extensively. And I just think that as part of this program, you're going to see some recommendations to start thinking about maybe adopting some new technology strategies, both to help you be more efficient today as you work remotely, but really in the future as well, even when things come back to normal, which I expect to happen at some point hopefully this earlier rather than later. So let's talk about software requirements again. This is the client management software. This is really one of those things that we'll talk about, not necessary today, but something you want to think about. We then have the office, the phone access, and the collaboration. Collaboration is really important for clients, but it's also important for teams. I have a team of 9 employees that are across several home offices, and we're able to video conference daily and using our video conferencing to talk during the day just to touch base. You also have to have something for your document creation and storage so that you're able to access and create documents. And then finally, sort of the accounting, billing, and payment. It's tough to get checks right now. It's tough to get cash, escrow deposits, things like that. It's tough to get to the bank, frankly. And so you want to think about maybe some different ways of doing this today, and we'll talk about that when we get to it. So the first thing I want to mention is the cloud-based office. This isn't, everybody, when I first started teaching tech back in 06, and I don't even think cloud was a word in 06. I think it started coming in about 2010-ish. But it was the cloud, and nobody really knew what the cloud was. I think everybody knows now, but there's people that are maybe still nervous. But the purpose of the cloud-based office is it's accessible by the team. It's accessible anywhere, and once it's in the cloud, it's typically backed up. Google has a considerable number of remote servers across the globe, as does Microsoft, Dropbox, all these different companies. They'll have a server warehouse in Chicago, in Antarctica, or in Sweden. So if it goes down in one place, it's going to get switched immediately to another place. You always have your data. There's some redundancy built into a cloud-based office, as opposed to having your thumb drive or your external drive that backs up your computer that then gets lost in a fire. That can be bad. Disaster recovery. We focus on that because in Maryland we had an experience with the tornado that hit La Plata, and destroyed some law offices and left them without their files. So really looking at that cloud-based office is super helpful. And also, I didn't put this down, but disaster recovery in the sense of maintaining your data, but also disaster recovery in getting back to work. Our office, because of the way we are so technology driven with paperless and everything else, we literally were able to start going home immediately and work from home. A lot of our employees had already been working from home, whether because of daycare issues or just not feeling well. And so these are some things to really think about from your office perspective, whether you're large or small. So, so here's the office computer access. This is probably the #1 question people have is, how do I access my computer at the office? Here are a list of programs that you can use. Our firm uses Chrome Remote. It's fairly effective. I don't want to log in and show you because I think that may have had something to do with why we lost that video feed a few minutes ago. But basically what we look at is you've got LogMeIn, which is a paid service. We also have that layered through for some of our employees. It has a few more functionalities. Go to My PC was another one. MS Remote Desktop is free. I put this in here because for the higher tech people, it's available and it's Microsoft supported, but it's I think it's a little bit more difficult to set up. I sort of was playing with it. It just seemed to me to be a little bit more hassle and than Chrome Remote Desktop, which was relatively simple to run and launch. And let me show you what those look like. This is Chrome Remote Desktop. One of the first things I want to show you with Chrome and Google is that they all have this sort of website that is part of Google. So Google's really pushed what we call software as service, which is software online. It's not an application that you download. It's sort of like a lot of people are familiar with Windows 365, which is on the cloud, or at least partially on the cloud. And that's really what we call software as service. You ever heard of that, SAS? That's what they're talking about. It's in the cloud, it's hosted in the cloud, and you never download it. So what you have here is you have remote.desktop or remotedesktop.google.com. And if you type that in when you're finished here today, after we complete the seminar, type this in, you're going to get a screen that looks like this. It won't have this, and it won't have this and this, but it'll look like this. And what it will do is it will have no remote devices yet, but it'll have this device. Right now, this is online, and it's been installed. So there's basically a two-step process to doing this. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to go to your office and you're going to type in this remotedesktop.google.com. You're going to go to this device, and it's going to say, make this device accessible. And it's literally going to be blue, and you click it, and it's got a download button. It's going to download some software that it needs to be able to layer onto your computer to allow you to access that computer remotely. We call that the host computer. So if I was to go to work, I'm going to be accessing the host computer, which would be Sue's work computer. So if I'm home, I'm going to go into Sue's host computer. So, but in order to have a host, you have to first download it, and you have to go to the host, look for this button here. It's not going to be a screen. It's going to probably be a download button, and you click it, and it says set it up. Once it's set up, then you go to your home computer, your remote computer that you're trying to log, or the computer you're going to use to access the host. And then this is going to switch, and it's going to go up here, and it's going to say Adam PC Work. The reason you see this device here at work is because I made this presentation from my office. So I was sitting on my PC, but if I was at home on where I am right now and logged in, it would say remote devices, and it would include this. So this would move back up here. The key thing is with these, let me show you a couple other things.
Adam,
yep.
I'm sorry to interrupt again. This is Andrea.
Sure.
We've had some folks that joined the meeting late that are still having trouble seeing the slide deck that you're presenting. They're seeing your webcam instead. So I just want to let folks know again that if you click up on the icon in the upper right-hand corner of your screen that looks like multiple people standing together, it should have the number 68, which is the number of participants we have right now. If you click on that, you will see a pull-down screen that has the icons representing our participants. You will see Adam, Spence, and then in parentheses, presentation. If you click on that, you should see Adam's slide rather than his webcam. So thank you. I'm going to mute now.
Yep. Okay. So yeah, and Andrea, that's fine. You know, one of the things about presenting remotely like this is it's very difficult to get feedback. So if I'm presenting in person, like I have in the past, I can get that information immediately. Here, it's a little bit trickier. So yeah, jump in, Andrea, if there's issues. If somebody else has issues, again, use this chat screen. Because what's going to happen is you're going to be using this technology, potentially this video conferencing, and you may need to use that chat to be able to tell your people, like Andrea did at 9:24, if you're having trouble, click the right-hand button. I think what she's saying is click up here. I think there's a button up here that you click to join my presentation. So let me go back here and show you. When you Google, when you enter remotedesktop.google.com, in your Chrome browser, this does not work in, I think it does work in Edge. I was playing with that yesterday, but really it's designed for Chrome. It's an extension to Chrome. Use Chrome. It's a phenomenal browser. I use it every day. But you have this is really a tab up here at the top where I'm pointing. I'll bring my pointer up. This is a remote access tab. So it automatically launches to this tab, but then you have this remote support button. And I don't want you to forget about that, because that's kind of a cool way to use remote desktop with your clients to share just your screen, so you don't have to go into this video conferencing. Let me show you what that tab will look like. So when you do this, there's going to be two choices that they're going to be presented with. One is get support and one is give support. What it really is saying is get support, let somebody access your desktop. And give support is let me access their desktop, because obviously if you think about in terms of support, you have your grandson who's in another state who understands how to set up your computer, he's going to say, I will give support by accessing grandma's screen desktop, and then I can do things. So what you do is you go here and you generate a code for your client, because you're going to share your screen. Particularly as we work remotely, this is some pretty useful technology, because when you're writing interrogatory responses, oftentimes we might do 8-hour sessions in our office with the person as we write. We're typing and they're looking at it and they're adjusting it as we fly. You can't do that now because we're not allowed to be around our clients. Also, we have Excel spreadsheets, which can get sometimes very complex with damage calculations and or just information on bank accounts that we're investigating for our fiduciary cases where people have stolen money under powers of attorney or something like that. So we'll generate a code, and then what we do is we just tell our client, go to this remotedesktop.google.com, put this code right in here under support. We have to tell them to go to remote support, put that code in, and click connect. And then once they connect, they're viewing the screen just like you're viewing the screen right now. There's some other screen sharing options that I mentioned at the top, more screen sharing later. But this is a really simple program. That's why we like Google Hangouts or this remote desktop, because Google is sort of what I call the software for the people. It's just kind of an upstart, and it really has some super usable software. In fact, I use probably 8 or 9, maybe more Google software programs, because they're really thoughtful. And Microsoft is too, although they're more business. Google's more people, and which can be used for business. But so you can explore some of the things when you're in your Google account. There's more over to the right, and you could kind of explore playing with those widgets or features that Google has, because they're pretty useful. And then there's my button. So remote access for all. Couple silly things that you have to remember. First, you have to install it on the host. I can't go to a computer that I haven't installed it on and try to get in using this program. It just won't work, obviously, for obvious reasons, because the two-way connection hasn't been set up. The second thing is you have to set the credentials on the host. Don't use your birthday. Don't use your phone number. That's pretty silly, and you don't want people hacking it. A lot of this is heavily encrypted, but you just want to use something that you can remember, but that's not going to be obvious to other people. This is kind of important. Remember the credentials. As a tech guy, my phone remembers everything, and one of the things that I do is I forget what my passwords are. And so when you're working from home, you want to make sure that you, hang on one second. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Christine asked a good question about Google Remote, about the clients being able to see your screen. Yeah, I mean, they're not going to be able to see you go into your files and drill in. You have control over their login. So what you're going to see is you're going to see that you've given them, you're sharing your screen, because they can give remote help. They actually could access your computer and start clicking. So it's really important that you're there on the screen with your clients. I've never had a problem where a client takes my mouse and starts going through my computer. That's just not something I'm going to allow, because I'm, again, it's a collaboration, and I've got the spreadsheet up and I'm just scrolling through it. And then if they want to show me something, they can take over the mouse control. I think Google may even limit what they can do when you're screen sharing. It may say, do you want to give up mouse control or whatever? So yeah, I mean, the security question is good, but then once you disconnect, they can't access your computer. It's not you have to give permission once they put that code in. And then after you in sharing, they can no longer use that code to get in. It's a one-time code that they use. So so that's a good question. So again, we talk about getting your credentials, remembering your credentials. I had somebody, let's talk about passwords for a second. I had somebody that we have a password, and they said, here's the password, but replace this number, number with spelled out or something funny, sitting on their computer. And I said, no, 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 that's not how we remember credentials. We have to do it a better way, whether it's something in our wallet, which again is probably a bad idea, because if you lose your wallet and it says my Google password is, you've just given your keys to the castle. So we'll talk about ways to maintain your passwords in a minute. And then when you access, you have to enter your credentials. So again, I've been at home and I've said, Sue's my wife. I say, Sue, what are your credentials? And she says, here they are. So maybe that's my password manager. So let's talk about office phone access. This is going to be something that everybody that's working now at home, and probably a lot of solos who worked at home before have struggled with, is, how do I differentiate between my business phone and my personal phone? So I hear a lot of people use two cell phones. I have people that have worked for me that use two cell phones before I told them to get rid of one and go to what we use. So the way you can avoid that two cell phone problem is you can use Google Voice. Remember, I was talking about how much I like Google. Google has a voice setup that you can just log in for free. They give you a free phone number. It's incredible. And then you can dial out using that Google Voice. It's web-based dialing, so it's a little funky. So when we talk about web-based dialing, it means that you're not going to call a normal exchange. You're going to actually have to use an app to make a phone call using the Google phone number. But Google makes it easy. They have a website that you can download their app and you can install it on your cell phone. And so when you open up that app, you're able to use your Google Voice phone number. You're able to call out of it using your Google Voice phone number. And people that get the call see, I think it says anonymous. I don't think it actually puts the number, but I think you may be able to adjust that now. But you're able to use the same cell phone that you use for the calls from your spouse or significant other. And the business clients, when they call in, it's business, because you can set it to ring in as Google Voice or their phone number, but they never have your cell phone. You can also, instead of just getting a Google Voice number, or you can get that, but you can then take your work phone number and forward it to your Google Voice, which is kind of a cool way to do it. The other thing with Google Voice is you can actually forward it to any number you want. So if I have calls coming in, I could send them to a call center where they manage my calls, which we don't use because we have two paralegals who answer our phones, or we can send it to their cell phones. And that's the same thing with our office phone. We can just forward it. So it's very easy to use Google Voice to manage calls so that you're not buying two cell phones. But the best one is Vonage or other voice over internet. There's a lot of them out there. I encourage you to research it. I use Vonage as a personal, as my choice, just because they offered a tremendous deal when I first joined. They gave me all my phones for free. I think they were old phones, but they worked fine. And it was a good deal. So we've been using Vonage now probably 7 years or so. The nice thing about using a voice over internet provider, let me see if so here we are. So the first thing you're going to note is you can unplug your office and your office phone and plug it into anywhere. So right now I have my office phone. When things started getting hairy last week, and we sort of knew that Hogan was going to do some things, I literally unplugged my phone out of the wall. I took it home and I plugged it into my Ethernet using my router, and people that want to reach me can call me. And I pick up the phone and I say law offices, or one of my staff picks it up, and then they just they're wherever they are and they transfer it to my extension. And it's just like I'm working at the office. I can dial in an extension. I used to do this when I went on vacation to the beach. I'd literally take my phone with me. I could see calls coming in. I could return calls. And again, I'm calling not using my home phone, but using my office phone. It's particularly important for me because I also have a headset, which I'm putting on now. And this headset it's a Plantronics headset, but there's a whole bunch of manufacturers out there. This one in particular actually has a Bluetooth or a connection with my cell phone, a connection with my computer that it actually plugs into my computer for that second thing here, soft phone. And also it connects to my Polycom phone, to my office phone. So that any call that I get in, I just push whichever button I like and I can use that. So let's talk about using your computer and your mobile phone as soft phones. With Vonage, they have what's called a Vonage app, very similar to using the Google Voice. And this starts to get kind of technical, but to just think about it, think about your computer as a phone. We call it a soft phone. Everything sort of software, soft phone. But basically, it just puts a dialing pad on your phone, and you click dial. And the way you can use that is almost like this video conference where you call and it will call a landline. It has switchers that work as a landline, and they can call in to your computer, and you can use it just like a computer. And it just makes it easy and again, sort of that seamless transition between working in an office and working remotely. And and you can use your mobile phone as well by downloading the software. So I have Vonage software on my phone, on my mobile phone. I have it on my computer. I have Google Voice both on my mobile phone and my computer, but that's just because I'm more techie and I like to play with this stuff. But you really only have to pick one and just use it. And again, play with it. It's not going to kill your phone. It's not going to kill your computer. Um, you can plug in a headset like I did to make it even more efficient. But it's really cool when you realize that you're browsing the web and you see a phone number for a website and you just click that number and it calls it automatically. It's pretty cool. Okay. We're getting a message, Shelly. I think what you have to do is you have to click on the show presentation in the top right-hand corner. You should be seeing a sunset right now, but you need to show the presentation. You're probably looking at me and my headset. So, so the other thing is, and this is the last thing, even small firms with two people, an attorney and maybe an assistant, they can use this Vonage system to manage the phone system as if they were at the office. So we have we actually have one person working to just manage our mail and our outbound mail. We spend about, I don't know, $500-600 a month in postage. It's unbelievable, even with e-filing. But one of our employees was home because we want to limit how many people are there, and they were answering our phones using the Vonage app on their computer, and they would just pick it up, and it looked like they were calling to the firm. And then they would just dial over to an extension and I would pick it up and say, yep, okay, put them through. And let me show you how that works so that you can see how an employee or anybody an assistant can use this system out of the office. So here's my son a couple of years ago. He's just turned 21 this week, but he calls in while he's on his headset. He makes this call in. And this is what it looks like. You can see in the background, you've got the Vonage app running on your computer. So you're just going to click answer just like a normal phone. And once you answer, you're going to get, hold on one second. You're going to get, you'll get this button here. You click transfer, and then you basically click that button. It gives you these options. You can blind transfer, which means you just transfer it. Attended means you're going to say, hey, it's Joe. Do you want to talk to him? And then once that happens, they're going to say attended transfer. They're going to literally call the cell phone number of our other employee. Remember, this person, is not going to get the phone number of your cell phone, but yet here you are on your cell phone and you're actually receiving the call. That's my other son who just is about to turn, actually just turned 17 yesterday. So the odometer is just all spun, but basically they're going to then get transferred and you just transfer by this. You can also conference call. So it's a pretty cool phone system. Let's talk about client and team collaboration. Before when we reached out to our teams or our clients, it was the phone. Now it's really video conferencing. Let's talk about the ways: Google Hangouts, Zoom, Skype, and again, you have that screen sharing on all these. Let me show you a Google Hangouts just briefly. Remember, we talked about remotedesktop.google.com. Well, now you have hangouts.google.com. If you look at your browser right now, I think it's meet.google.com because it was set up as a meeting, but Hangouts is kind of a simpler version. But if you bring this up, you might get this. You might not have anybody here. This is a little bit more difficult to do because of the invitation system I don't like. But the simple thing is this: make a video call, make a phone call. And you literally just click that button. I'm going to make a video call to my best friend. Once you do this and you say make a video call, you can invite people. Right here, you could just enter their email and it would send it by clicking invite. My preference, and I do this a lot of times, is to copy my link because I like people to not get a Google spam looking email. I actually want them to get this. And so I could start a client conference and say, hey, I want to bring you in on video. I'm going to shoot you an email. Just click the link, or they can expect that that's going to happen. And so I just copy that link, put it in an email, and then you go up here and you can chat and you can screen share. You can also add more people. So you can, if you're on a phone call with one person, video conference, you can add people up here in the top right-hand corner. Super easy. Looking at the bottom, you see there's a button for video, there's a button to hang up, and there's a button to mute. So it's giving you all of those choices, which is nice and easy. So this is another app. This is a really great collaboration tool, Slack. It's a lot like, I guess Microsoft Teams has this as well. This is sort of what I'll call AOL Instant Messenger, which we used to use on steroids. So it's Slack. If I'm on my direct messaging channel, I just click this button right here. I click to start conference call, and it literally starts a conference call with one click. And it works great. When people will receive these, they need to do a couple of things. They need to accept, allow the permissions for the program to use their microphone and their camera. They also have to they have to answer the call. So this is the way that I check my employees are working, is I click on Cameron and I say, hey, I want to talk to Cameron. So, and you can also see the instant messaging here that we're doing. This was when we were working on part of the materials that I've developed, the paperless office. I've refreshed that and put that on my website, spinsfirm.com. On the right-hand side, you can see there's files that people have been putting up. So Zephora, she's one of our interns. She sent a resume to one of my staff. They basically just take it and drop it in here, and they upload it, and then I can look at it. So you have a real easy way to share sort of a document file really quickly, and you don't have to go searching for it. So here's your phone call. I clicked, I called Nate, my ninja. I can click for screen share. This is a paid plan, but then video, and then I'm going to hang up. Here's my little penguin. That's me. So here's the comparison. This is useful. Really what you want to focus on is how long you can last in a meeting. So Zoom, 40 minutes max. Google Hangouts is unlimited, but you do need Chrome. The other thing you want to focus on, is FaceTime. It's easy, but you can only do it with people with an iPhone. You can have up to 32 participants apparently on a FaceTime call. WhatsApp is another one that's encrypted. We've all seen that as part of the impeachment proceedings. I think it was some of the technology that was being used, but this one, the other side would need WhatsApp. Discord, it's one you may have heard of. It's just again, sort of an everything in one for gamers. Teens use, but the thing I mentioned about teens is they can help you with all of this stuff. If you don't know what you're doing, ask your kid. I had problems installing my monitor. It was one of my kids' monitors that I was borrowing. And he said, oh, you have to change the input. And I was like, I didn't even know monitors had an option to input. And apparently his fancy one did. So let's talk about how do you sign documents? So, right now there's some discussions about getting notaries, electronic notary legislation, which goes into effect in October, actually getting that expedited. Its effective date now, so we can get things signed electronically to get deeds filed and things like that. And I think its time has come. This is signing documents. There's DocuSign, there's EverSign, there's HelloSign. I mean, there's just a ton of them. This has a free version, which is 5 documents a month. For some people, that might be enough. We have a paid version, and it's pretty easy. You log in, you enter the recipient's name and their email, and then you open up a document. It's called preparing it. You drop places for signature by each person by their identification, and then it goes out, and you can actually see this is what it looks like when they get it. They can do it on email or on this point on an iPad. That says sign right there, and they just click that little orange button, and it takes them to their signature block. They click sign, and they can do that on their cell phone or their iPad or their computer using a mouse or their finger. And once it's done, they click submit, and that document is legally binding. Under UCETA, Uniform Computer Electronic Transactions Act. There's a federal act, and so it's this is how we're getting all of our engagement letters signed right now, because our clients can't sign them in person like they used to. So everything's being signed using EverSign. The one problem with EverSign, and this is something you have to be aware of, I say problem, when you send an email for somebody to sign, so I have a multi-party settlement agreement that I need signed, which we do all the time, because of the authentication requirements, it has to go to that person's email. So I can't send it to a lawyer to forward the link. It just doesn't work that way. I've contacted the developer up here to actually talk to them about getting that changed. One person mentioned that this was a Belgian company, and was I concerned about security? Actually, the EU has more privacy issues in place and more security in place than even America. So you noticed a lot of cookie disclosures on websites you're browsing right now. That's because the EU has some really strict privacy and other rules in place. So I actually probably am a little bit more comfortable using a foreign company to manage this stuff, and it's all encrypted anyways. And these companies would not make money if they weren't legitimately being legitimate. And EverSign has a lot of users. DocuSign, a little bit more expensive than EverSign. Again, small firms trying to save money. Let's talk about accounting, billing, and payment. LawPay. This is one area that you can use. We talk about we talk about the software. You can go online with these accounting programs. Time Matter is not online, but it has a billing and payment. This is again the concept of expanding your software. So you can have access online to your accounting systems, QuickBooks Online, Clio, Rocket Law. There's a ton of them out there. Do your research for what works for you. I've seen people on the listservs, hey, what's the best billing and client management program? And so talking about getting paid again, LawPay, you send them a link. The escrow payments are IOLTA compliant. They don't withdraw fees from the IOLTA account. It actually gets drawn out of your operating account. And so it's compliant. Clients can't give you cash today or a check, so you got to send them a link, and that's how they pay. And a lot of clients prefer that. It's 3% is the cost, so it's a little bit expensive, but it's certainly better than not having clients pay. And the other thing I want to mention is ACH transfers. Most banks are now allowing you to do what's called an ACH transfer, which is a direct transfer to your bank account. There's some question, should I give my routing information and my account number out? It's a security issue. It's a security issue, but I think that in the end, sharing your ACH information is not going to jeopardize the safety of your bank account, particularly if you're sharing it with clients who you know and trust. So document creation and editing, these are the two guys in the game. Microsoft 365 online, G Suite. We've all noticed the subscription services that have come into effect in the last few years. This is really the new model. And I think that really what you're probably seeing is, again, that software as service. everybody's moving online now. It's just there's a recognition that this one-time license fee that you buy, Word 2010, that you use for the next 8 years, just not making them enough money, or it's just not the security concerns. They're moving everything online, so expect to do that. Now might be a good time. We're actually looking at going to 365 at my office because of the document editing across the board without having to log in remotely to edit our documents. And that kind of goes to, where do you keep your documents? Google Drive, 15 gigs free. We actually, I think we have a terabyte of Microsoft OneDrive, but I have Google Drive, Microsoft OneDrive, I have Dropbox. We use all of these with our clients, and we just ask them which one they like. And it's surprising how often they use different ones. Google Drive, I think you need to have an account. And in fact, a Google account, same with Microsoft, but even to access a shared drive. But I think you definitely need an account for Hangouts, as I recall. Some of you may have had to log in to get an account. I don't know if you need that for Meet, but you definitely do for Hangouts to be able to have that really tight video conferencing that we talked about using hangouts.google.com. So this is accessible on your phone. I want to point this out. You can download your Google Drive app, your Microsoft app, and your Dropbox app on your phone. I do a lot of Boy Scout work with a Troop 497 out of Texas, Maryland, which is Timonium. And I'm always there talking to the kids about stuff, and I'm bringing up some documents on their merit badges or whatever it is out of my OneDrive. And I use that almost every meeting, and it just is right on my phone. The app also should be downloaded on your computer because then it syncs. I actually have 2 different clouds syncing right now. I have Google Drive and OneDrive syncing on this computer, and I have all 3 syncing on my computer at the office. So this is really, something to think about. Where do I keep my documents? Do we keep them on our assistant's computer up front and then log in? Do we keep it on our on our laptop? Really start thinking about storing them elsewhere for safety and protection. If things go sideways, you can access those quickly if you lose your laptop. So let's talk about safeguarding information. I know everybody, first thing they think about is, what about security? Well, the one thing I wanted to talk to you about is, you lose a thumb drive. How secure is that? So this at least is going to be protected from somebody just picking up your thumb drive. But you have to competently safeguard. So that's a pretty simple burden, believe it or not. Basically, you do your research and make sure that it's encrypted and that it's usable. All of the software that we've talked about today have met this standard. If you were to use some of those Chinese apps that we've heard about, where they're actually Russian apps that they're installing some malware, you just want to pay attention to that. And if that happens, you need to drop those apps. Basic security. This is an amazing website. Everybody that's on this conference call should log into this and type in their email. I typed in my email. I've got about 12 different websites that have been hacked, including LinkedIn, Under Armour. I'm trying to think of some other ones you guys might know, but they all got hacked, and it's been disclosed through this. And so I now get emails from the dark web that say, I've been watching you on your computer. I have your password. It's X. And I'm like, yeah, that's the password you got from LinkedIn 5 years ago. So I know that they're getting it from the dark web. So this is really kind of keeping you apprised of having been, they call it pwned, which is actually a teenager sort of way of saying you've been schooled. Yep. Password apps. This is another way to really keep your passwords safe. Google Chrome, Microsoft, they both will, Edge and Google Chrome will actually maintain your passwords. When you log into a site, it says, do you want to save this password? Then when you go back to it, you can then access that. Obviously, that has some security concerns. We're going to talk about that too in a minute. Google Chrome knows the computers I use. If it doesn't recognize it, it's going to text me and ask me if I'm going to let them use it, and then it's going to require a code from me. So this is a sort of what we call a 2-factor authentication that protects that information. There's also Keeper, Dashlane, LastPass, a couple other ones. They all have different features. I haven't compared them, but if you're interested in looking at these apps, they say that these are the best way to manage all of these passwords instead of using the same password across the universe or the interverse or whatever. Use a password app and then maybe use Google to suggest a strong password for you for that site because it's going to remember it anyways. Here's a sort of what I'll call the basic security measure, which is setting your sites, whether it's Google, Microsoft, Keeper, who knows. If somebody accesses this site using my name and password, text me a code to verify it's me and text me it on my cell phone. And that's actually a really simple way to just protect yourself. It's called two-factor authentication. Almost every website that's important has it, including banks. If you don't have two-factor authentication, you need to get it immediately. Some websites require it. You can have a backup email that you can use. I encourage you to have two different emails, and so you use one for the login and the communication on that website, another one for maybe your spouse's email, just in case something happens and your email's been hacked or something else. You have a safety valve so that you can recover that password and that access. These are big issues, and you need to be thinking about those to protect your access to your sites, and then what happens to those sites if you lose that information. A little bit more advanced. This is for the geeks out there. One of the things that's happening is they're stealing cell phones, and it's called SIM card jacking, the SIM jacking. They'll take your cell phone, they'll steal it, and then they grab your SIM card, and then they will use that to guess your password, or under the I've been pwned, they have your password, and they then will take your account over. And there's a great podcast I listened to where these guys were making about $500,000 a year jacking SIM cards and basically selling the information, including really cool Twitter handles like Satan Lives or something crazy like that. And they're making like $500,000 a year, these hackers. A lot of ways that you can do your two-factor authentication. These are the sites I recommend that you at least get your 2FA in. Password followed by, it could be a face scan or a thumbprint scan. My computer login involves a thumbprint scan. Not many people can fake that. So this is advanced two-factor authentication. You're going to see this becoming more the norm, I think. What this is an algorithm-generated token. It's a 6-digit token for each of these websites. This little blue dot right here counts down for like 2 minutes. Once it's over, it gives you a new authentication. The way you use this is actually an app you can download. It's called Google Authenticator. There's other authenticators out there, but this is one I use because, again, I love Google. The way you would add a website, so here we have WordFence and we have Bluehost, which is where we host our web provider. You click this little plus button, and it's going to say scan a barcode. And there's a barcode that you actually, this is on me. I'm not a barcode, but I just thought it'd be cute there. And you're going to see, so this is a two-factor authentication sort of sample that you might see. One is a text message. You can use text messages. I don't think that even though they're subject to SIM jacking, I think it's better than nothing. Or you can choose your authenticator app, which is what I did in this case. And then what you do is you take that, again, when you added that plus sign and you said add this site, you take a picture of that, you put it within the barcode, and it adds that site. And then the next time you log in, it's going to say, please enter your username or email and password. And then it's going to say, enter your authentication token. And you open that app, going back to this, and I enter those 6 numbers, and I'm done. It's pretty cool, and it's really going to protect you, because even if they jacked your SIM card, they would not be able to jack the Authenticator app. There are some things that you need to do when you download the apps. It'll give you recovery codes that you can store very safely, so that if you lose your cell phone in the Authenticator app, you can recover that quickly, but other hackers can't. let's talk about maintaining your sanity, kind of going back to, hey, how do we get through this, guys? Well, get dressed on a routine. Make sure your kids are handled. Hopefully, they're watching they're watching classes online. Khan Academy has some great ones. Stay social online. Don't be afraid to reach out to your coworkers, colleagues. One of the cool things that we were doing was we were having a seminar that I did for the Civil Justice Network, and it was the first time a lot of us had gotten back together since everything went sideways, and it felt good. And so use these conference techniques to have those conversations and stay social with coworkers, and I think that would help. I say working out and yoga and meditation. I've actually been doing yoga for about 2 months now. I did it before this thing started, and I tell you, it really helps keep me centered and focused, and it really gets rid of some of that stress. Sort of sounds a little interesting, but I think that if you give it a little bit of patience and start with yoga with Adrian and go slow and maybe even repeat the same program, you can get that done. And work out. You can walk on your treadmill, do whatever you need to do. From a schedule perspective, this is a funny thing, and I just wanted to close with this. My son, I guess he gets it from his father. I don't know, but he came up with his own schedule. He just came down one day and said, "Hey, did I show you my schedule?" And I'm like, "What?" And he just intuitively knew that now that school is out and things are sort of sideways with school, he said, "I'm going to have a schedule. I need to keep myself organized and on routine." So he kind of came up with this, and you'll just see it's pretty funny. He works out at 10:45 and plays guitar, and every day he comes down, kind of down around this time, and he says, "Do you want to hear the guitar I learned today?" And yeah, we're like, "Yeah, great." And there you can see he works on his merit badges. He hasn't done that yet, but the other thing, again, in closing, at 5 o'clock every day, we have the luxury now. I'm not commuting. At 5 o'clock, I unplug and I go out and I play a family game. After dinner, I come back on. But I've been closer to my family now than I've been in probably years. And so, we have games at night if it's raining outside. Last night we played. What did we play? We played Quirkle and with the family, and we played Clue the other night. And it's just, it's a time to get back and focus on what's important. We were playing lawn darts, and we played cornhole another day. Get back to your family and focus on what's important. And maybe, again, you're doing this through your teleconferencing with your friends if they can't come over, which we're not encouraging. And come up with that schedule. Get dressed. I'm dressed obviously somewhat for the presentation, but this is the way I'm getting dressed every day. I'm not laying around in my pajamas. I'm getting up at the same time, and I'm going in and I get my coffee and I get to work. So I really want to encourage everybody, stay with that schedule, and I think it'll work. So why don't we open it up to questions?
Doris or Angela, do we have any questions posted in chat?
I don't see anything, Andrea.
Yeah, and I could do
Okay.
this. Yeah, so Stacy has one about notary. Yeah, go ahead and put your questions in. Stacy, right now, notarization, you're going to have to go to the banks. They're an essential service. You're going to still have to send your clients to the banks to get notarized. I think that the notary thing, one of the things. By the way, one of the things there are people on the call today, on this conference today, who are with the State Bar, who are emailing out. When you get those, you can reply to those with concerns you have for the judiciary. And we've done that. One of the things that I'm concerned about as a trial attorney is scheduling orders, because I'm not deposing people right now, and my motions aren't getting heard, and I need an extension of all of my my cases. I mean, it's kooky, and so far the bar has been sluggish at doing that because I think they wanted to see, but that's a discussion that the bar is having on our behalf with the judiciary. So if you have questions about, like, we need notaries, we need to be able to waive the signature requirement on that is required with the original signature requirement that's required with the Orphans Court. It's a rule which is one of the oldest in the country. I think we need to step into the modern age. So these are the questions you can give to the bar and reply back and say, could you ask about this? So notary is one of them. We want to, again, they're going to go effective in October. We're seeing if we can get that done sooner. Virginia has online e-notaries. The way they work is that you set up a Skype session and the notary sits there. They've got an electronic certificate that they have to obtain, and they watch you sign it, and then they e-notarize it. It's pretty cool. If you want to read more information about that, you can go online and search for Virginia notary process, e-notary process, and you can see that. We've actually used that to have clients sign affidavits because we don't have e-notary here. And so we've used that in some Virginia cases that I've managed. Yep.
Adam, can you see the snap or can you see the chat questions coming in? We have somebody making a suggestion about getting a good scanner. Some folks have mentioned that they use ScanSnap.
So ScanSnap, let's talk about scanners. Moving to a remote office, you have to have everything scanned. And I've been talking about this literally since 2006. ScanSnap was the first one-touch scanner, and it was the big green button, and it revolutionized scanning in America. I mean, truly, if you aren't familiar with the backstory, but ScanSnap is an amazing piece of hardware. I encourage everyone to have one on their desks. We have one actually sitting next to me here in my home office, as well as at work on my desk, as does every single staff member. It scans 46 pages double-sided a minute. But more important, it just is easy. These all-in-one printers I don't recommend because they're just hard, and it makes it like difficult to save stuff, and it's slow and it's clunky, and get a dedicated scanner. If you go to my website, and this is important, go to my website under resources for small businesses. You'll see I have principles for paperless office that actually talks about this technology. I think inside of that, it actually has the settings to set up using ScanSnap so that it truly is one touch, where you literally push the button, it scans it, it brings up a window that asks you to save it right in your client folder. And it gives you all the settings you need so that you're able to just follow my instructions. And so those are under resources for working at home that are in the front of this presentation. Again, it's a game changer. I would encourage anybody who doesn't have that to take a peek at that. Let's talk. I'm sorry, Andrew, did you have another?
Yeah, I didn't know if you were able to read the questions that had been sent in chat. Are you seeing our conversations in Zoom HIPAA protected or approved?
Yeah, so I don't know about that. I'm going to guess that I'm going to suspect that it's not. I'm going to guess that well, let's start with Google desktops or Google. Not desktop, Google Hangouts. I don't believe they're going to be HIPAA protected. They might be, but the problem that you get with HIPAA is you can't control I guess there's an idea that you can't control who's around you, but there is now telemedicine. So I think that's a good question. I think you probably have to research that. Is Zoom HIPAA compliant? It's a HIPAA compliant. So Zoom is HIPAA compliant. And those are the questions when you're doing research, right? So for us, we do share HIPAA materials, but the way we share it is, I don't know how HIPAA compliant we have to be, because we're not, there's some weird stuff on that. And you have to really look carefully at the HIPAA statute. We do comply with it to get records, but yeah, so anyhow, let's talk about some other questions. Let's see. Yes, good question, Brian, about using this video conferencing technology. Yeah, absolutely. Yesterday we were having a conference on Hangouts with the State Bar, and one person was just having trouble connecting on their internet, so they just got on their cell phone and they were able to use it. I did a Zoom conference for Nextdoor, basically on how to use a Zoom conference. And again, we had somebody that didn't have a strong internet, so she was on Zoom on her cell phone. There was loss of functionality as far as like reactions. In Zoom, you can do little hand waves and thumbs up, but the connection was great. And yeah, you want to encourage this because again, everything that we do needs to be simple for us and simple for our clients. So you really, yeah, definitely want to think about having your clients use their cell phones. It may be easier for them than a computer, and it has the microphone and it has the camera, whereas most people probably don't have a camera except on their laptop. So mobile hotspots, yeah. So each service provider, runs these deals on mobile hotspots. You're going to see Verizon and Sprint. They'll have like a thing you plug into your wall, and it actually downloads data, and it'll give you a hotspot at your house. So again, we're all really worried about the internet. If you're having trouble like moving around your house, or just thinking about Ethernet or internet access, get a good Wi-Fi system in your house. They're about $150 to $200. They're definitely worth doing. Nighthawk is one, but get those so that you can walk around your house and use your laptop anywhere in your house. Super, super important. Don't just use your router that Comcast gives you. Let's see if there's any other questions. Hold on one second. Yeah, okay. Any other questions, folks? And I think the bar is going to send out a survey. So if you wouldn't mind just simply letting them know what kind of stuff you want to see and that you'd like to hear about. We have things like Google AdWords. We have things like security for websites. My website was actually hacked because I didn't update WordPress. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, let the bar know, and we can make this part of how we get back to business. But I think that's it, guys, unless anybody else has any questions. And let me just share this real quick. I'm going to put my email up and my phone number and my website for everybody.
While Adam's doing that, I just want to say that we will be sending out a survey later today. Thank you all so much for participating. We had more than 60 people on the line around 10 o'clock. And Adam, thank you so much on behalf of the MSBA for sharing your knowledge. And we will all stay in touch. And as Adam said, if you want to suggest other topics that we can present on, the Bar Association will be happy to try and pull those useful tools and resources available together so that we can all stay apprised of what we need to be doing to be effective during this public health crisis. Thank you, everybody.